Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, April 4th. We are here live. It's time for a free-for-all. It's going to go fast. We only have an hour today. Then I'll be followed up by Rolling Toe for another hour. And then I'll see some of you on the coaching call later this afternoon. So jump in quick. Phone lines are open. Hit that call now button on your app. That should work just fine today. Or if you're going to dial the phone, here's the number, 855-950-3835. We are also live streaming video again today to X, Facebook, and YouTube. We've been picking up some new listeners and watchers on the live stream video, so we appreciate that. Technology seems to be holding up well so far today. We'll see what happens when I go to take a call. So we've got some calls coming in. I'm going to get to those pretty quick. One topic I'll talk about, kind of been touching on this quite a bit lately, this idea of the big push for broker transparency. I was a little shocked by what I consider to be a legitimate survey done on this. There was several surveys that were done on X, and it was clear they were bought and paid for. It's really easy to do that on social media sites. You can just go pay to get a certain result on a survey, and they use thousands and thousands of bots to vote a certain way. I just ignore those. I can't believe people actually spend money on those trying to prove a point, but they do. But this survey was done by Overdrive, and I just did an interview with the business writer over at Overdrive, Alex Lockheed. I used to write that column a long time ago, the business column in Overdrive, and I've worked with them since the mid-90s. The article just told the story of what happened at Matt's when I was on the Pro Talk stage and we got interrupted by people screaming that I had to talk about broker transparency, and it just went downhill from there. He did a good job covering it. Really well-written article, gave all sides, didn't really get real opinionated about it like journalists should be. But the interesting thing is that Overdrive did a survey about broker transparency, and 73% of owner-operators and small carriers believe that the carrier should have the right to see the rate. Now, we already have a regulation. That regulation, though, if you read it, says you have the right to see the rate after the transaction during the billing cycle, which I don't think you should ever be able to see the rate at all. I don't understand the logic behind this. I don't understand in a free market why we get to see somebody else's margin of any kind. But that it's a leftover from the regulated times when they wrote the Motor Carrier Act of 1981. Like a lot of government programs, the way they did it didn't make sense. They kept authority in place. There's no reason to have this process of authority anymore. I don't know of any other business that has this. I'm not saying you shouldn't have to file something with the government, but most businesses, honestly, can start without filing anything. A couple simple tax forms, and even that isn't very well enforced. I've started businesses with no filings whatsoever. Why do we still have to go through this process of asking the government if we can be a carrier or not? They issue it to everybody, unless you have some sort of felony. I know there's some rules, but I don't understand this whole concept. It shouldn't exist, but it does. So now they take it to, they want to see the rate before they negotiate the load. I'm completely against this, and I've always thought that most owner-operators and other business owners would agree with that. Well, it turns out I'm not even close to being in the majority anymore with the attitude that I have. 1 in 4, based on the survey, thinks that way. 3 in 4 believe that we should have the right to see the broker's rate. I always keep an open mind on anything. Show me new information. I can't imagine any information you could ever show me that would make me agree with this, but I also have to look pretty hard at the fact that I'm in a small minority now. I'm kind of shocked by that. I get that the things I teach have not always been widely accepted in this industry, things on fuel mileage and customers and brokers but boy, when I see a number like this, and then the comments that I saw, just kind of brutal, really. I mean, I was called a hack and all kinds of crazy stuff. Not that I'm not used to that either, but after a while, when I start looking at numbers like this, I can't help but start thinking, maybe it's just time for me to retire from this industry, at least. It's hard not to think that way. I'm not giving it any real serious consideration right at the moment. I had fully planned on at least another decade of what I'm doing, but I have to start rethinking that maybe. Maybe I don't want to be in this industry another decade. Maybe 4 decades is enough. I don't know. I really enjoy the people I work with, the people I help, but with that strong of a resistance in our own industry to this kind of thinking, one thing that it does, in my opinion, is in many ways, it does make it even easier to compete. Not that it's ever been all that difficult, but they may get traction with this stuff. You know, the government's looking at a lot of stuff in trucking again. We have another EPA mandate coming out on engines. We've got this push for broker transparency that the government is seriously considering. What else was there? There was a couple other. The big push against lease purchase programs. I wrote the book on how bad lease purchase programs are, but I can't imagine what the government's going to do to fix that. And when I post that question, should the government do something about lease purchase programs? And if so, what and why? I get no logical responses. I get, well, they're garbage. They're ripping people off. Well, that's not a reason. You can't write enough rules to save ignorant people from their own bad decisions. You're never going to be able to do that. So give me a logical reason why lease purchase programs shouldn't exist in the form they've existed in for decades. I mean, this goes way back to what was that company, Midwest something with the dollar truck? That was before I even got into the industry. That was in the 70s that was going on. I'm not a fan of these things, but I don't see why they shouldn't exist. Why do we keep wanting to take options away from people? I've been doing a lot of podcast interviews lately, a lot of new podcasts or established podcasts in trucking. They're growing a lot in logistics, a lot of brokers, a lot of tech companies doing podcasts. I've been more active on social media because we're trying to get new followers and new listeners. And what I'm finding is I'm getting a lot of attention from the rest of the industry and a lot of podcast interviews. I'm having a hard time keeping them all scheduled. I've got a couple next week while I'm at TIA, and I seem to have 2 or 3 just about every week right now. But I'm just kind of shocked at where we've gone on the small carrier side and the owner-operator side of this industry, how it's feeling like I'm definitely in more and more of a minority. There's another, I hate the word influencer, but I don't know what else to use, that I've been noticing with videos on X. I'm going to go do a little more research on the guy. I don't know what his background is. He puts up videos. And today the videos seem to be all about, I didn't have time to watch it because I was just getting ready to come on the air, all about the fact that the only thing owner-operators should focus on is gross revenue. When I first look at that, I wonder if it's satire. Does anybody in business really think that would be a good idea, to only focus on gross revenue? My take has always been focus on expenses first because that's where you have control. And once you get your expenses under control, it's not that hard to keep them there. Revenue changes constantly with the market. And I'm not saying you shouldn't focus on gross revenue, but to say it's the only thing, to me, I can't imagine making a bigger mistake. And yet that seems to be gaining steam again, like I might be in the minority on that whole issue. So I don't know. I've been heading in the other direction, not even thinking about retiring or slowing down. I've been adding things. The group coaching, the live CMC, my schedule is getting really full. And maybe that's where I should just focus my time. Unfortunately, I really can't avoid social media. We have no other way of growing our company these days. And if you don't grow as a company, you are shrinking. There's no in between. It's almost impossible to stay in the same place in business, to stay static. So the marketing opportunities are social media. And if I want to do it right, you have to stay engaged, but it can be pretty frustrating. I have been getting back to a lot more posting on our tribe site. I had gotten away from that for a couple weeks while I was getting ready for the CMC and Matt's and getting the coaching programs up and running. Now I'm back to posting there, which I'll continue to do, and I love the interaction I have there, but we don't grow there. Somebody already has to be a member, and they have to know about us to see that site. And I certainly don't want to neglect our current clients, and I never will, but we have to grow. I appreciate every time you recommend our show to somebody, but we know that it's not easy. They've got to go find the app. They've got to download the app. It's not as easy as turning on the satellite radio that was put into your truck by somebody else. That was our biggest advantage on Sirius. We didn't have to market. We were able to focus on our customers exclusively. One of the problems now, we don't have a marketing department per se. Lisa and the team have had to kind of create that whole part of our company. None of us are really trained in marketing, so we're working at it. But it also means it takes time away from other things, and until that starts to generate some revenue, we can't really hire people for that position either. Not that hiring anybody these days is easy. So I'm not complaining. I'm just thinking out loud, and I kind of rethought the whole direction of the company, and that's where we are right now. And I'm wondering if I rethought it correctly or not. So we'll continue to work on that. In the meantime, I'm looking at the calls, and they're piling up. I do love that, by the way. Calls are still always busy on this show. That's a good thing. And I've only got an hour, so we're going to jump right into it. We're going to get started in New Jersey today. Darren, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call, Kevin. I thought of more things to talk about.
Okay.
I have a few more than what I initially said, but
that's good.
I'll start with that. So I was listening to the Tuesday show, and that fella called in about spilling catalyst in his van.
Yeah.
So I did not spill catalyst, but I have a Dodge Grand Caravan, but we get raw milk from a local farm in gallon glass jars, and it was about 3 years ago, on the way home, one tipped over and just spilled the whole gallon all over the interior of my van.
Ooh,
so
yuck.
What I did, I took the seats out and pulled the whole piece of the carpet out and then pressure washed it off. But what I found, and I'm thinking maybe this is what's happening with his, is the floor, like the steel floor underneath the carpet, is not level. Like it has
dips and valleys.
I had puddles of milk underneath the carpet, and I'm wondering if he's sucking it out of the carpet, but I'm suspicious that maybe there's still some catalyst.
You might be right.
In some of those dips, and some of them are like, in my van, were like an inch deep, and there was a lot of milk down in there for me. So
yeah,
it might be something we actually have to take up the carpet and actually, use paper towels or whatever to clean all of it out. I don't know how much he spilled.
That's a good point. Because no matter how good the cleaner, deodorizer you're using, it's only going to work if there's liquid still under there until that starts to seep back through again. So, good point.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's not fun pulling carpet out, but I did it all within like 4 or 5 hours. So
yeah.
It'll be a big job, but it might be what it has to be done. So, real quick, I have 2 more. I just got a new phone actually last evening. It's a Android, and I am not able to get the
fuel gauges.
Your fuel gauges app.
I know.
Is that something that will? I mean, I can still go on the actual site and add stuff in, but is that something that will be coming or not?
Well, let me just give you the history on that. The first time this occurred was about a year ago. Android did an update about a year ago and broke our program, and that happens a lot. And Android is way more labor intensive than iOS because iOS only has one device maker. You buy an iPhone. Yes, they upgrade occasionally, but it's easy to keep up with the iOS. Android, with different devices, different versions of the operating system, much, much more difficult for us to keep up with. And since this last break, every time they update, it breaks horribly, and we have not been able to keep up with it and fix it. So I can't tell you that it's going to be fixed. I can tell you that we keep working on it, but it's been a huge struggle for the last year, and most of the time, it's not working. Now, there is another option to be able to do this on your phone. It's not quite as convenient. It doesn't work as good as the app, but you can type in m.letstruck.com and access the software through the browser on your phone.
Okay. I would go and the way I figured out, but this sounds like it might be easier. I would just go into your Let's Truck store and then go to sign in and click on gauges, and then I can go in and I think I can enter it that way anyway. I didn't got my phone, but it looks like I could.
You're right. If you are on your phone and you access it through the browser on your phone, you're right. No matter how you eventually get there, you'll get there and it will work. So that is the difference. The app won't run on the phone, but you can get to it through a browser on a laptop, a tablet, or the browser on your phone.
Good. Well, that's great. I am not given. I love your fuel gauges. I'll work with it even if it's less convenient, because I heard about you in 19, and I had called a while back. From 2020, was my first year that I had a full year. I went from an average of, I forget the numbers exactly. I'd have to go back and figure it out again, but average of around 6.5 to 2023 was 8.57.
Wow.
I learned all kinds of stuff. I try to haul pallets, and I do like 50% of my miles.
Oh, that's right.
I run out to New Jersey loaded and come back empty. So,
excellent.
But yeah. So the last question I have is on rolling resistance for tires. So I have my truck set up with a 6x2 setup, and I don't know, a couple months ago I called in on Friday when Joel was on, and I thought, if I go with all position tires, that would be a good thing. And him and Henry were like, no. So my question is, I have X-Line Energy D drive tires on right now, Michelin, and they now have an X-Line Energy D Plus, which is like still a drive tire, but it's 40 or 50 points lower rolling resistance than what I have. Will that hurt me? Will that lower rolling resistance hurt me? I guess I understood I shouldn't go to all position, but can I go as low in rolling resistance with a drive tire as I can, or do I need to be careful?
Well, let me
tire wear and slippage with my 6x2 setup.
Okay. Yeah. So Joel's done a lot of work on this. I did a little bit of work when we were still building signature trucks and working with this. The issue with tires, they keep changing constantly anymore. Michelin has been through a revamp of all kinds of things. So every time we kind of think we know something about tires, we're relearning. And think about it. I know people today that get 400,000 miles out of drive tires. That's kind of insane. And in the meantime, in that 400,000 miles, tires have changed 2 more times. It's almost impossible to compare tires now in any kind of long-term comparison. The good news is that no matter how expensive tires get, they're still a really minimal part of our cost per mile because they do last so long. So I tend to lean towards lower rolling resistance always because we get instant return. We have to buy fuel every week. If I can lower my fuel cost, I know I get a return immediately. I don't know anymore how to get a better return on the life of my tire, and I don't really need to. It's too small of an expense to even worry about. So I tend to buy really high quality tires that fit the job and then lowest rolling resistance I can get. The slippage issue has never been an issue for me. I mean, I have to believe that any decent driver should be able to drive a truck on the highway with any tire that's been approved. You know what I mean? I've never seen a tire that could be unsafe, except maybe in the worst of conditions when you're pushing a tire way beyond what you should be doing anyway. And that was one of the advantages of being able to spend time on Michelin's test tracks. We got to push tires till we broke them, till we saw what the limit was. And I got to tell you, if you are pushing any tire on the market to its limit out on the road, you don't deserve to be a driver anymore, because you have to push those tires hard to get them to fail or break traction in a way that's dangerous. So that to me is kind of a non-issue. The lifetime wear of the tire has become a non-issue. It's too small to mess with. So I'm back to, I'm going to buy tires for their immediate performance, if I can tell the difference, and rolling resistance and fuel mileage. 4 to 5,
that makes sense for me.
40 to 50 points on drive tires, that's almost a half mile per gallon.
Well, right, which I have a 6x2 setup, so I only have on my lift axle, I have just straight all-position trailer tires.
Well, hold on. Stop a second. I got to correct you because it's going to confuse people. You either have all-position or you have trailer tires. Those are two different things.
You're right. They're all-position. It's the same tires that I run on my drop deck trailer. So, yes, they are all-position. They're an all-position tire.
So now you could improve fuel economy by going to true trailer tires at all trailer positions plus your lift axle. Those are the lowest rolling resistance tires made. Some of those get down into the low 70s for rolling resistance.
Yep. And when I checked rolling resistance, I run a Firestone all position. It was the ones I got are 1 point higher in rolling resistance than a Michelin trailer tire I was comparing it to. So they're really, really close to the Michelin trailer.
That's too close to mess with then. That's a good tire.
Yeah. So, and I like the results I'm getting out of these tires.
Good.
I just went sure. I have currently on the drives that I have right now, I have 245,000 on them, and I need to measure tread depth. I still have, I'm going to say, at least 10, 30 seconds of tread depth left on them. So I drive very soft. I'm not worried about, I think Joel said some guys get less than 100 on drives when they have a dumb lift axle setup like I do. Mine's either up or down. I can't adjust it. So that's why I run into a little bit of slippage issues if I don't watch it, because I got 600 horsepower to the ground and I've got one axle driving and I can't adjust the weight on my lift. So that's why I was a little concerned. But I think you answered my question. I'm going to go lower when I get tires again, and we're going to see what happens. So
perfect. All right.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good talking to you. Let's go to California. Cole, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Good. What's on your mind today?
I just want to say it was nice meeting you at the CMC, and really enjoyed that event. Didn't get to hang around too long on Friday. Had to get out of there immediately, but really enjoyed that event. I'm looking forward to the coaching.
Good.
I signed up for that a couple months ago and still haven't figured out how to sign in. And like I told Angie, I need to call the Tribe Care team, but I was hoping you could kind of give a little commercial on that for us.
Yeah, so the coaching program is one of my favorite things now. I mean, I am enjoying the coaching program way more than I thought I was going to. And we got kind of a pleasant surprise in that we knew we would have to limit membership in this program, because I commit to going as deep as somebody needs, as long as they need me to go that deep until we solve their issue or get their project off the ground or whatever it is. I have a guy now who's getting material together, wants me to help him buy his first terminal. You know, he bought his first truck using my program, and he's grown, and now he actually wants to build a local terminal. So I'm looking at helping him with that. That could be a long project. The good news was we had this huge flood of signups in the beginning, so much so that I thought we might need to shut this off now until we can figure out how much time is this going to take me. Well, the good news is we're really only having maybe 2 or 3 difficult cases at once, which is easy for me to manage. I could probably manage about 20, really. We have 2 or 3 a week, and some come in, and then some we solve their problem and they move on. And I kept waiting for all these other people to submit a question or something, and nobody was. They were showing up every week at the coaching calls, and so I reached out to a couple people and I said, hey, you've been in the program a while now, I haven't heard from you. Oh, you probably won't. We just enjoy listening. We're learning so much just watching and watching you troubleshoot other people's problems, and we're learning a lot. So if that keeps up, I mean, that's really good news for us. We can get more people into the program than I thought, so that helps us generate revenue. Honestly, I spent almost $8,000 on a course myself to come up with this idea of group coaching. It wasn't my idea. We've done live coaching before where I teach and then open up for questions, and we run out of room in those fast. You know, we couldn't get enough people in at the right price that it was worth it. I was taking up way too much of my time and not generating enough revenue. And we tried different versions of that over the years, and it didn't work. And then I saw this course on here's a way to do this that solves a lot of those problems. And I worked directly with the company, and then we came up with this idea and launched it. And it's working really well. I mean, for $72 a month to get 4 coaching calls a week, you're just never going to find a value like that. I mean, there's just no way I could ever work with somebody directly. I've made the statement, if I had to work with people one-on-one, I'd have to charge $500 an hour. And I know that sounds insane or ridiculous or whatever, but that's just the math on how it would work. I mean, we have to generate enough revenue to cover our cost and make a profit and grow the company. And my time is pretty valuable. I mean, I don't mean to sound really egotistical, but it's going to be very hard for me to ever train somebody to take my spot in this. So that's why we have
another one of those guys in your. I mean, I've already signed up for coaching, but I just don't know how to get in and do the call, and I'm pretty busy, and so
right. Here's what you should do: just set aside 15 minutes to get on the phone with somebody in Tribe Care, because this is as easy as we send you a link and you click on the link and it opens a Zoom call. I mean, Zoom calls have become, in the business world, almost nobody uses the phone anymore. I mean, well, we use the phone, but we're using Zoom calls almost constantly anymore. Every day I'm on a Zoom call with somebody, even if it's just one person. Brent Hunto and I meet a lot, and we just do Zoom calls. It's kind of a little more personal because you're looking at each other, and the AI in these programs now transcribes the entire event, summarizes it for you, takes notes about the whole call. It's pretty incredible. So we're using Zoom a lot more, and that's how we do all of our coaching calls. It's just a Zoom. You just basically click on a link, and you should be in there. So once it's like a lot of technology. When we haven't done it, it seems overwhelming. Like, oh my God, this is so complicated. How am I ever going to figure this out? This is one of those things that once you see it and you do it once or twice, you're going to go, well, this is easier than making a phone call. We send you a link and you click on it, and you're basically, you're in the call. So
what about sending, I know you probably don't know anything about this, but I'd like you to help me build a fleet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I know that was kind of tongue in cheek. Yeah, but
right up your alley, right?
It absolutely is. What shocks people is how much more intense I am about that second truck than I am the first. People take buying that second truck, that's how you build a fleet. You go from 1 to 2, not 1 to 10. Buying that second truck is a much, much bigger, more important decision than the first. I can make the guarantee that if you follow my program with your first truck, it is impossible to fail, because part of my program qualifies you ahead of time. If you need $120,000 to pay your bills at home, then you just don't even get to start in my program because you're going to fail. I've built a program that guarantees your success with one truck. I can never guarantee that success with the second truck, ever. I can show you how to do it right, how to minimize the risk and the mistakes, but I can't guarantee success anymore. That driver issue is too big. And this is a tough business. You're sending somebody out with, maybe $100,000 worth of equipment and they're on their own. And it's a big, big issue. And finding good drivers has always been a challenge. It's not getting easier. Once we get that second truck profitable, then it is kind of a matter of just recreating that till you get to about 10. And then at 10, we got to start changing things we do. When we get up to about 18 or 20, we got to start looking at new strategies again. And those are things I could help people in the coaching program. And I will tell people, I will take you to about 25 trucks. After that, I don't even like trucking companies after 25 trucks anymore. I wouldn't want to run one. It's why I sold mine and didn't grow it. Up to 25 to me is a lot of fun. Owners still very involved. After 25, you start operating much, much more like bigger fleets, and everything changes. And my strategies just aren't that useful after 25 trucks anymore. Now it just becomes a matter of volume and pure numbers. I just don't even like that model.
Right. Hey, I'm sure we'll go over this on the coaching call if I can ever figure out how to get in there, but grow or shrink. So the book, what's it called? The E-Myth?
Yeah.
It talks
I have
about
an old one.
Companies getting small again, and it says there's some weird things going on with that because you end up failing. I'm kind of in that spot where I need to grow or shrink, and I'm a little scared to shrink.
Yeah, this is a challenge. It's kind of like what I talked about today. We need to grow our company. We've been off Sirius for 3 years. We are still not consistently back to the revenue numbers we used to generate. And that's tough. I mean, it's a challenge for us. I'm not saying we're worried or we're about to go out of business, but I don't sit back and wait for things to happen. You have to be proactive in business, and I'm watching. We're not able to do some of the projects I'd like to do because we have to watch our revenue and our expenses. And I would rather be able to have enough steady growth that we don't have to think that way. We're not shrinking, but we're not really growing in any significant way. And it's after 3 years, I'm getting a little uncomfortable with it. So it's why we're doing the live streaming. It's why I'm spending much more time on social media than I'd really like to. But in today's world, a business like mine, that's the only way to grow it. You got to bring in, you have to market and sell constantly, and that's just not something we've ever focused on. So I'm there.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to run a business of the size that we have right now, but it's not working. Our expenses keep going up. We can't keep raising rates we haven't raised rates on anything. So that's hurting us too. So this is not a comfortable position for me to be in business.
It's kind of like what that book alluded to. You're either growing or you're dying.
Right. There's very little in
that as a one truck, carrier like me. You eventually stop growing because you can't grow anymore.
Correct.
So the only way you can grow is to start expanding.
Now, I will say
I've already done that, and I'm shrinking back down. There's a lot of things that we can go over in the coaching, but
I will say this: a single owner business. And maybe you have some support, like your wife does dispatch and accounting and things like that, but not adding trucks and hiring drivers. You can stay a single truck business forever. That is kind of an exception, and this works in almost every trade. If you wanted to be a drywaller or a carpenter or whatever, right, and it's just you you can maintain that size of a business forever if you're happy with the revenue. Matt is a good example of this. Matt's been one truck for forever, and he makes an incredible amount of profit in really good markets. He makes a significant profit even in a market like we're in now, and he has no desire to ever add a truck. You can stay there. Now, where it gets difficult is once you add that second truck, it almost becomes imperative at some point to add the third and the fourth.
Right.
And
right.
You can stop somewhere under 25, but it can be more difficult once you start that process. If I only have one truck, one extra truck, and one driver, and the driver quits, I immediately have to start working to get another driver in that truck, which takes me away from my truck. That becomes a struggle.
Right.
If I have 25 and one driver quits, that's a small part of my profit, and I don't have to panic right away. So this is, once we go beyond that one truck, everything gets much more complicated, which is why I do the coaching program, because these are questions I just can't answer on the radio. There's not enough time.
Right. I'm really looking forward to that. Hey, another thing real quick, something I meant to say at the CMC and I forgot my train of thought. I know that happens to you sometimes too.
Yeah.
If anybody's thinking about getting their DOT number and MC, you might want to encourage them to get a second phone number, because once that MC gets listed on the FMCSA's website,
I know
that number gets blown up.
And that's a great point. We did talk about that at the CMC. It's a great way to now. Yeah, it actually came up while Truck Stop was on the stage, and I was running around as a mic runner, and then I was giving color commentary. That came up.
Yeah, that's when I forgot what I was going to say. Maybe I missed it, huh? Okay.
Somebody actually then, I came up with the idea of just go get a burner phone. And then somebody said, hey, wait a minute.
What I did, yeah.
I don't remember if it was Verizon or T-Mobile or somebody said you can add a second line to your current phone. And then, you can either set up rules so, that's on do not disturb, or there was a way to manage this with just one phone. I don't know. I'm sure I didn't dream it. I remember exactly where I was standing in the room. I remember the guy who brought it up and said, hey, you can do this with one phone. Yeah, we had this conversation. I know.
I was sitting there thinking about it, and then I forgot it, and I was going to mention it because I did that. I added a second phone to my Verizon.
Yeah.
So I have a full another phone number and everything, and that's nice because you turn it off when you're sleeping.
Exactly.
You need to have it on when you do carrier practice with new brokers, because they need to contact you to make sure you're legit.
Yep.
So that's something that I was able to do when I filed, and boy, I'm glad I got that advice, because I'd never get any sleep.
This is why we're doing the hybrid CMC. By the way, CMC registration is still open. We're going to keep it open until we think we may have too many people in the program. And so we still have signups. It isn't like you had to sign up while you're at the live event. Most of the people we've had sign up, well, it's probably a pretty good mix from the event and from people who couldn't make it but knew they wanted to be in the program. One of the reasons for doing that is the CMC started as 2 days, went to 3 because people told us we missed that. There was too much information. Then it went to 4 for the same reason. And then people on surveys said, our week's already screwed up, make it 5. And we would still get the comment on a 5-day event, 5, 10-hour days, sometimes longer, that they missed stuff. There was too much material to try to absorb during that amount of time. That's why we're really taking our time and spreading the whole program out over a year now.
Yeah, and then that program isn't something that you need to hit at a particular time, like the coaching call. That's something that is kind of recorded. And
always recorded, right. And even the coaching calls are all recorded. So you can go back
but
and
if you're trying to work directly, it's
correct. Right.
Now, this is something I wanted to mention on the coaching call. At what point do we get information of where would we send stuff in to for you to review numbers or data?
Here. They'll give you the email address and you submit it ahead of time. Yeah, we've got a pretty good system for it. Hey, Cole, I just looked at the clock and realized I only have an hour. I got to get moving here. Let's go to Texas. Paul, good morning.
Howdy.
What's on your mind today?
I'm in the minority as well about the broker thing.
Wow. I was a little shocked by that number.
Maybe you should do an impromptu survey and each caller just a simple yes or no for or against.
Well, see, sometimes I have to be careful doing that. That's what I do. I tend to live somewhat in a bubble. I try not to. I try to make sure I get out and get opinions from people who aren't part of the tribe, because the feedback from the tribe just reinforces my beliefs. I'm sure if I did a survey of people who listen to me pretty regular, it's going to be the opposite. It's probably 80 to 90% disagree with that statement. But I've got to be careful, again, that I don't get so stuck in my bubble I start believing things that aren't true.
It'd be like going into Walmart and it's like, I need to know how much you paid for this cabbage before I'm going to buy it.
It's so anti-business and anti-American to me, and I've always believed that people in this industry are more independent than the general population, but I don't believe that anymore. I'm seeing too much evidence that the people in this industry have changed dramatically in the last 10 years.
Yeah, there's too much. I'm too big to fail, or I'm too small. The government needs to help me.
Too much entitlement that just because you decided to get into business, all the rules should be stacked in your favor somehow.
Yeah, but if they make that a rule where you can see, well, that's just a slippery road you're going to go down, because it's just a matter of time before someone says, well, the broker only makes 15%, so we need to see your numbers. You can only make 15% as well.
They don't seem to think that should be the case. Somehow they think brokers are different, and I don't understand that mentality. They are just a service provider that the customer chose. The shipping customer chooses to use a broker. Why are they any different than any other business we deal with? They're not.
Yeah.
And the other solution is always, don't use brokers. Nobody forces you to. Go find your own freight.
Yeah. So in 2005, I bought a second truck, which I only had it for about a year. Well, actually, I had it for about a year and a half, but only because it took a half a year to sell. Well, yeah. I can assure you that I make more money with one truck than I did with two, and my wife drove the other one.
Absolutely. It is not an easy thing. It is a big decision that I've watched it screw up a lot of good owner-operators.
Yeah, well, really, I had no business owning one truck then, because I was a left lane guy, and it's like, as long as you gross lots of money, you'll be right. Yeah.
Like I said,
I didn't.
There's this guy
I wasn't really tracking anything.
I've been seeing on X, and I don't watch many videos online. I know I'm an outlier in that too. It's like it takes too long to watch a video for me. Give me the transcript and let me read it. And I know you can speed up the video, but that's just annoying. So I tend to just scroll past these things, and I kind of see what the topic is, but I don't know what the detail. And this guy's been posting a lot of goofy stuff. I don't know what his background is. I don't know if he came from the broker side or the carrier side. But today, when I saw what was going on, it was just all about how gross revenue is the only number an owner-operator should even bother with. And I thought, is that satire? Is somebody really posting that as legitimate business advice?
Well, that's the only number I used to track.
Well, I get that a lot of people do it. But I think I can't imagine making a bigger mistake than that. And most people do it because they haven't thought through it all. They haven't been exposed to how important it is to track your numbers. But this guy is actually promoting this as good business advice.
Yeah, well, that 2006 year with that two trucks, I grossed, it was either $509,000 or $511,000. Well, I don't know where it all went, but I didn't have shit. Yeah, my wife, I paid her like $45,000 or something.
Yeah,
and I paid myself $22,000.
Wow.
And I can tell you there wasn't anything left out of it.
Well,
really, at the end of the year.
And
I'm in the black, but only just.
I would believe you, because I went from 1 truck to 2 to 11 in about 5 years, and I got to 11, and I was bragging about how much money was coming in the door. I was 20-something years old, making well over $1 million a year, even back then, with really, I mean, we used to run for 80 cents a mile back then. Some of my trucks back then were making 72 cents a mile with RPS at the time. But you know, in your 20s to say, oh, I gross $1.6 million a year. Well, great, except when I finally did the accounting, it was costing me $1.7 million to do it. And I was working 20 hours a day, which wasn't an exaggeration some days. That's how I learned
below the poverty line.
Yeah, it's a big mistake if you don't do this right. Hey, Paul.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, got to run because we got to knock out a couple more calls, and I don't want to hold up Rolling Toe today. Let's go to Indiana. Hold on a second. Got to hit the right button. Almost dropped you, Sam. Welcome.
Good morning, sir.
What's on your mind today?
Hello? The organizations and the people that's wanting this regulations have evidently not trucked during when we had regulations. I'm a second generation owner operator. I started this trade in 77 legally.
Got it.
A few years before that.
That's been a couple of years.
Yeah, I've dealt with brokers the biggest part of my life. I got my own operating authority and everything. I run about 65% of my own stuff, but I got to rely on brokers for the other part. And it's just like a business. I mean, everybody's got to have a little profit. And that's just kind of like me buying out of your store. I said, I'm not going to buy your store no more unless you can show me how much you're making.
Yeah, well,
and you tell me to go to hell, and then that'll be the end of it. But
you're right, and we've even been somewhat transparent with that number. I am not against people volunteering their numbers. I mean, we have a close relationship with our tribe. We like it that way. And I've said many times, when we negotiate a new product to come into our store, we need at least our target number is really a 45% margin on the gross. That's our number. We know that we have warehouse expenses, we have employee expenses, we have shipping expenses, we have returns that can cost us money. We don't get a lot of those, but there's a lot that goes into getting that product from a manufacturer and getting it to your doorstep. And we know that we need a 45% gross margin. Now, some people would look at that and go, that's a lot. You're marking the product up 55% to me. Well, yeah, and that still does not make it easy to make a profit overall. And many of our margins now have dropped into the 35% range because of inflation, and we're trying not to raise our prices if we can avoid it. So we are pretty transparent about, in general, the margins we work on. I'm fine if people want to, but if somebody calls me and says, I'm not buying Brain Octane until you tell me exactly how much you paid for it. Well, no, sorry, it doesn't work that way. We'll volunteer some numbers if we want to, or maybe I'll just say, look, we're just not going to say anything about anything. And here's the thing. Everything that's in our store, you can go find someplace else, and you can compare prices and service and the overall value you get. And if you decide you want to buy it someplace else, then you should. That's your choice. So isn't there already enough transparency in the market that we can make decisions without knowing an individual company's margin?
Exactly. I don't know. It's been this for a while, and if you don't like the rate, don't haul it. And some rates are negotiable. Some of them are not. Some of them are you're using.
Right.
And, if they want to do this, they need to go buy their own truck, get their own authority, and get their own customers, which we have our own, a lot of them, but, it took years to develop.
Correct.
An overnight deal.
And you're probably aware of this. You can spend years developing a customer like that and lose them overnight.
Exactly. We lost one a couple of years ago, and they come back to me and said they had a better rate and people. And I said, you're going to have to go for it because I can't do it no cheaper. And if they can, they went through about 3 other carriers since me, and I guess they're still struggling getting their stuff delivered, but that's their problem now. Say hey to Paul. I am a car hauler.
Oh, good.
But anyhow, I just wanted to tell you that you was talking about retirement a while ago, and I thought, man, you don't need to do that. I said, I'm second generation doing this. Dad retired a few years ago at 89, and I'm not going to let him outdo me.
Well, there you go.
The way I look at it.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm seriously considering it, but I'm getting to that age where I plan on working in some form or fashion for as long as I'm on the planet. I mean, I can't imagine not having something productive like that to wake up to. But that could be something like me developing a couple products that I grow on the homestead and put out on the market. I could spend my entire day doing that kind of stuff, and I would really enjoy it. Or we could build the homestead into an event property and do events. And there's so many ideas that I could do and really enjoy. And it starts to make me wonder, am I just becoming kind of a dinosaur in this industry? I mean, and I know there are a lot of people who still think the way I do. But it seems like in the last several years, that number has gotten so small, and I spend more time dealing with the being called a hack, all over social media. And mostly I ignore it, but you've got to be careful ignoring it too, because I just said social media is where we have to grow. And if there's enough groups out there that tend to follow me around, and that seems to be what's happening now, and they do everything they can to shut me up. Well, people who don't know me, don't know my history, if that's the only message they see, I may have lost them already as a potential client. So I can't just totally ignore it. I have to figure out, I don't want to fight back and turn it into a big pissing contest online, but I have to make sure I'm out there and visible enough that they at least get exposed to the other side of what we do, and then they can make up their own mind. But honestly, it's getting to be an awful lot of work, and I'm spending a lot of my day doing that, and it's not what I really enjoy.
I can understand that. It gets old at times, but your best move is when Sirius fired you, because I'm a long time listener and first time caller. But
well, thank you.
I love that program you got now.
I do too, and that's part of what probably keeps me sane. Is I don't have to worry about what I say anymore. Not that I did when I was on there, but we see the result. I said something somebody didn't like, and our whole world was upended. We lost 3 big contracts overnight over that issue. I'm glad I'm not in that position anymore. I could still lose, partnerships because of what I say, but we don't depend on our partnerships anymore. The revenue from them, which is also makes it that much more important that I add individuals that want to listen, and it seems to be kind of a struggle these days. I'd love to just sit back and do what I do and have our tribe benefit from it, but there's bills to pay too. So we have to do all the same things we talk about in business. Sam, I'm going to cut you loose. I had another call I was going to get to. I think they hung up thinking we were going to wrap this up here at the top of the hour. So I guess we will wrap this up. Rolling Toe should be joining us any minute. We are just going to continue on with this show. So I will wait for Mike and Kevin Beckett to log in here, and then I will turn this over to them. I don't want to make it sound like I am seriously considering retiring anytime soon, but I think people know that I'm somewhat of a planner when it comes to big picture stuff. Not detail, but in my mind, I'm always thinking about the big picture and where we're going and where I should be going. And I just find more and more that the thought pops in once in a while that maybe my time would be better spent on something else these days. I don't know. I absolutely appreciate our tribe, no doubt about it. And I love what we're doing with the coaching program, with the CMC, with the radio show, with the video streaming. The time I spend on social media is not my favorite, and it's just become necessary. So maybe we'll figure out a way to keep bringing new people in without me spending that much time on social media. This part, the live streaming, is easy. It's when I need to get in there and interact and respond to people, and then it turns into the piss and match, and then I have to. I did start blocking people. That's something really new for me. I'm not a fan of that, but it became necessary. It was just too distracting to constantly have to deal with people who only have one agenda. They don't want to learn. They don't want to debate. They simply want to shut me up because they don't like what I'm saying. I just don't have time for that anymore. Should have never had time for it, but that's where we are. Angie, if we could go ahead and get the Becketts in here, we'll go ahead and turn this over to them. I had a bunch of topics. Let me get back to my notes, and I'm sure I've got something I can cover. While we're waiting for them to come in, let me get back to my notes. I had a ton of topics that were in the news here recently, trucking stuff. We do have new rules about truck emissions from the EPA. The U.S. EPA announced the strongest ever greenhouse gas emission standards for heavy-duty trucks. Unbelievable. I have talked about this. I'm all for clean air, but how can they possibly, at this stage in the game, even come up with rules that are the strongest ever? We've been through the 03, 04, the 07, 08, the 10 and 11, some minor changes since then. Those are major changes. We went from mechanical engines that spew soot and smoke into the air to some people claim that if you're driving a modern truck in the LA basin, the air coming out of the exhaust is cleaner than going in. I don't know if that's true or not, but we're close. How can we now end up with even stronger standards? Let me check and see what's going on with... Okay, we're just waiting on Rolling Toe to jump in. Let's make sure they have the right number. They have the right number. They used to, Angie, if you're listening, they may be trying to use one of their old numbers for their show, because normally we don't do it this way. So let's make sure they've got the right access to get in today. Also, the live stream will not be running during Rolling Toe. Not even possible with our technology currently, but that will probably be something we offer our other hosts in the future. If they want to do a live video stream, they can. All right, what else? I had a couple other topics. Like I said, the emission greenhouse gas standards make me a little crazy. They are working on another new oil category. This one will be called PC12. It sounds to me like, this is kind of interesting, PC12 will replace the current CK4 and FA4 engine oils. They are now going to develop an oil that will be backwards compatible all the way back to mechanical engines. I mean, if you're going to replace the two standards we have now, that's why we have two standards. We have the newer oils for the modern engines and the old, or the oils that are backwards compatible to all the prior diesel engines. That was confusing. It was the first time we had ever had two standards like that. And I was actually a part of helping one of the oil companies get the word out. I did some seminars at truck shows about this topic. Now we're going back to one, which is good news. It'll be interesting to see how that oil gets developed and what is going to allow it to be the best oil for the new modern engines and still be a good oil for the older engines. So we will stay on top of that. I have been noticing more headlines lately about commercial drivers being caught under the influence of primarily alcohol. Seems to be a more common thing right now. All right, we are going to wrap this up. I am all out of time. We will see you back here tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.